Hello and welcome to Medals and Mics with me, Derval.
With me, David Gillick.
Myself, Rob Heffernan.
This podcast looks inside the life of us trying to be our best on a global stage.
Like all great journeys, it didn't always go to plan, yet the lessons learned can be applied to everyday life.
Every week we'll talk about winning major medals, Olympic Games, new challenges, our sporting careers and everything in between. Enjoy listening.
Thanks for being here.
We hope you enjoy listening.
Flowgas, as a leading supplier of electricity, LPG, natural gas and solar, are proud to be the energy behind Team Ireland in the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. And to celebrate this partnership, they have announced a new Team Ireland dual fuel tariff. When you sign up or switch to Flowgas, you not only receive a market-leading rate, a 22% discount and a welcome bonus of up to €300, you will also be supporting Irish Olympians through Flowgas's donation to the Team Ireland Make a Difference Fund. For more information or to sign up, visit flowgas.ie. Flowgas, energy for everyone. T's and C's apply. First year cost of €2,417, inclusive of welcome bonus, estimated annual bill of €2,717. For unit rates, standing charge, all other charges and T's and C's, visit flowgas.ie.
Welcome to Medals and Mics. I'm Derval. I am here with Rob Heffernan and David Gillick, and today we are talking to Olympic silver medalist, sailor Annalise Murphy, and we're going to be talking about all her time on the water and off the water. I am very happy to say we have a guest here today. She is one of my favourite Olympians, Annalise Murphy. I'm trying to think of a title for you because I have loads. Olympic medalist is probably the top one. I'm going to give you that. European champion, that's another one. Chef, Ballymaloe Cookery School.
Yeah.
MBA from Trinity, is that correct as well?
It is. It was a struggle. But
okay,
yeah.
But listen, take it, my friend, take it. We're delighted to have you. You have been to 3 Olympic Games, 1 Olympic medal, and we're just dying to have the chance.
Yeah, can't wait to be on.
No.
Talk probably absolute mustard, but
we're into it. So, okay, tell us, to get going, did you always want to go to the Olympic Games when you were growing up?
no, not really. I didn't actually think that was possible or something that was possible for me to do. I knew a lot about it because Mum went to the Olympics. So we were very aware from when we were kids that the Olympics was a thing and you could go to it. But I didn't actually think I'd be good enough in a sport to go because I didn't start taking sailing quite seriously until I was about 16. Up until then, I was just doing it for fun. It was Mum and Dad's sport. And we just joined in. They'd be like, we're off to go and do the national championships. Here, go and have some ice creams on the beach, that kind of thing. So it was it was their sport, and they'd bring us sailing sometimes. But it was only when I was older I started taking it more seriously.
Like taking the sport seriously, or the acknowledgement of maybe the Olympics is something I could go to.
Yeah, I still think that I just never thought I'd be, when I was 15 or 16, I thought there's no way I'll ever be good enough to go. Then my older sister.
Where did that come from? Because your mom was the first Irish female sailor, is that correct?
At the Olympics. It was the first time they had a women's category at the Olympics for sailing in 1988. Up until then, it was open category. Basically, it meant it was men.
Yeah.
There was the odd woman that did qualify, but in general, it was men sailing at the Olympics. So it's amazing how much it's changed from like 88 to now, where it's 50-50 men and women. But
And did your dad, what level did your dad compete at?
he competed at a very high level. That was, my mum and dad met sailing.
Right.
So they met sailing lasers, actually, which is the boat that I went to the Olympics in 3 times. And then when the women's category came in for the Olympics, my mum was like, oh, I'm going to give it a go.
So when did you start sailing then?
So I was sailing with them from when I was very young, but out with them in their boat. They just throw us in. My mum once did national championships with my younger brother and myself as her crew, but you're only allowed to have 1 crew. So she got disqualified for having too many crew.
What age were you at this stage when she did that?
Finn was 5 and I would have been 7 or 8. We were just in it for the free Mars bars and cans of Coke because we weren't really allowed that kind of stuff. And in sailing events, you used to get like a lunch when you were out on the water, and it would always be a Mars bar and a can of Coke.
So what's the race? Do you know, does someone know who has no clue? What's the race? What distance?
They're like, you go out and you do a load of races. Sailing's it takes a long time. As you know, it's a full day kind of sport.
Right.
So you head out on the water, and then you normally do 3-hour-long races over the day. And races in Ireland, they're normally weekend.
Is it point to point, or is it?
You go up and down. Quite often you'll do a triangle or a square course because the wind is coming, the direction it's coming from, there's different points to sail. So you've got your upwind, your reach, which is when you're going side to the wind, and then your downwind, which is when the wind is.
So are you in the boat on your own?
When I was in the boat on my own, but when I was learning, I was only ever with my mum and dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where was it all Dunleary?
No, we actually learned to sail in Blessington Lake up in Wicklow. That was where they sailed. They had a 2-person catamaran, and they'd go sailing, and we'd go and catch frogs, and it was great. It
was fun. That's
great.
obviously
Yeah. It was really fun.
So there was loads of freedom, was there, when your mum and dad were out and...
It was, and it was frustrating when I did learn to sail. I realised how far behind or properly learn how to sail. I thought I knew how to sail, but when I was actually putting a boat on my own, I had no idea what I was doing. I just was very comfortable on the water. I was so frustrated because there was all these kids my age were so much better than me because they'd all been on programs, they were getting coached, they were sailing all winter, and I was completely
So you
crap.
weren't pushed?
I was crap. I wasn't pushed at all.
But that's good. In many ways, you could look at that whole kind of conversation on early specialisation. That if you came into a little bit later, but yet you went on to have a career in it.
Yeah.
What age were you then when you got? What age were you when you? I suppose not taking it really serious, but this is my sport. This is what I want to do.
Probably transition year. That was a really good year for me because I suddenly had loads more time to go sailing. I could go sailing during the week because school was a bit more chilled out. You kind of could do whatever you wanted really.
Yeah.
And I did the Gashka Award, the President's Award.
Yeah.
And I put sailing as one of my skills or something.
Okay.
So, I had to go sailing a few times a week to fill in my logbook to get this
clever,
award.
wasn't it?
Yeah, so it worked out well for me. And Irish Sailing, they hired Roy Fitzpatrick to coach the under-18 squad in 2005. And he'd just finished, he'd gone to the Athens Olympics in the laser. And that made a huge difference because suddenly there was a coach that wanted to go out on the water.
With the Irish under-18 squad?
The Irish under-18
So how did you get into that?
I got into that actually. There was a trials down in Cork, actually in RCYC, over Easter. It was a 4 days racing, and
that's in Crosshaven, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's down from my house.
RCYC, Royal
Cork Yacht Club. It's the oldest yacht club in the world.
Reggie and Derval.
Over 300 years old. So it's and it was probably my sister she really wanted to go to the Olympics. She was big on, I'm going to go and do this, but I just was like, oh, sure, I'll just follow her and try and do whatever she's doing.
What attributes do you need to be a good sailor?
You need to be really aware of your surroundings, I think, aware of what's the kind of big picture, because you're always looking at the wind and the waves and what the other boats around you are doing. And then you need to be pretty disciplined, be happy to train a lot because it's a big part of it. In the laser, I probably liked it because it was very physical. And I enjoyed that side of it. You have to be physically very fit to sail the boat, because you're throwing the boat around with your own weight, and so the races are hard physically, particularly when it's windy, and that's what I enjoyed the most about it.
There's massive pressure with the elements, and
that's the fitter you are, the faster you can make the boat because you can sort of throw it around, and then also the fitter you are, the less tired you're getting making the boat go fast, and you can then see what's happening on the race course, and you can make smarter decisions. And it's just...
So the training then, obviously doing a lot on the water, but again, I don't know a whole lot about sailing, but I'm looking at what's going on in the water, how physically demanding it is in the boat. So off the water, what sort of stuff would you be doing?
Yeah, when I was a teenager, I was just doing loads of sports in school.
Okay.
Which again, I still think is so important. I was doing cross-country running, I was playing hockey, I was playing tennis. I was doing all the other stuff. It wasn't just this is what I'm going to do now.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Sometimes kids, they'll be good at a sport and then it's okay, all the others are gone.
Yeah,
when actually the others all complement it because it means you're getting fitness from all the other sports rather than suddenly going, oh, well, you're not doing any other sports. You have to go and do fitness on your own, which as a kid, you're never going to do.
Even the social element, isn't it?
Massive,
Imagine if you're just an athlete or just in a boat from a kid. But
that becomes your identity then. Suddenly if it all kind of goes
you're massively impeded then when you get into a group as well, aren't you? Do you know? Yeah.
What about your parents and all this? Your mum obviously went to Olympic Games. That was her sport. Was there ever any kind of pressure, or what way did she kind of manage you in that world of sailing?
No, they never pushed us at all. Like it was like
They
really,
did the opposite. They're very relaxed people.
Yeah.
From the
it
little
was-
bit I would know.
It was very like, it was nearly like I was annoyed. I was like, why didn't you send me on all these camps? Like I remember being so annoyed that like I was so far behind my peers when I started to get a little bit better, but I realised I was still kind of on the back foot. And they were just like, Like we used to beg them to go to events. Could we go to events? Like also looking back, it was also because they probably couldn't afford to send us to events as well. But we're like, please, can we go to this?
Would you find it though, like obviously we all have kids now. You're nearly hesitant to push them into it because you know
Well, it's really
how
interesting.
hard the life
like,
is unless they want it themselves. Your parents were probably like going,
Yeah.
it's not glamorous. Like
Sailing's not glamorous.
it's
So
the solitude of it, and
There is nice locations though.
true.
Yeah.
But sailing in Ireland, I think coming up through that, and I'm married to someone who went to the Olympics for sailing, which we have referenced
How
in
did
this
you two
podcast. I know.
I'd love to hear.
what's his name again, Dorf?
Annalise, I'd like to apologise for the lad's behaviour.
She never mentioned
She didn't
the poor,
mention him
the poor
like,
lad. Like.
we had an episode. She didn't mention who her husband was.
Yeah.
We had to tease it out of her. Peter O'Leary,
The ghost boss.
lovely guy.
So, but we will get.
songs,
This is
actually.
going to be a bit of a. He is actually saying.
Song fella.
But we will get on to him because there is a connection there between you and Peter O'Leary and the Rio Olympics and all this kind of, well, there's loads of connections there. But like, for me, the sailing thing, coming into it as someone who has no background in sailing, being married to someone who sails, and then seeing my kids now start to do a bit, it's interesting with your parents that they had that real like relaxed, like that was their thing and you were kind of just dragged along to it.
Yeah.
And because I know with Peter saying our kids, like Peter is like has no interest in putting them into any formal setup for sailing, but he's very like they just need to be able to feel the elements. Like that's a big thing for him. He's like they need to be comfortable on the water. Like that's his big thing. And I wonder maybe with your parents is like they want you to be really comfortable, and whether that's because recreationally the sea will be a part of your lives or you'll do something else. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think they just, I think also when you've been through the whole Olympic thing, you know what the dedication that you have to put into it.
Yeah.
And they knew, like Peter's probably the same. He's like, I don't want to push the kids into doing this. If they want to do it,
There'll come a point.
There'll come a point
you'll
where
be
you'll support.
100% supportive. And that was when I really wanted to do it. My parents were 100% supportive.
Yeah.
Of
Probably buzzing as well, though.
Yeah,
weren't
they were.
Oh, yeah.
I
You know
joke
what I mean?
that I'm the favourite child.
Oh, yeah, but that's
because
just the way it is.
I lived my
always
parents'
say that
dream.
about my mom. We are the favourite kids. Like.
So when did that happen? And when did you realise that? Hang on a second, I'm good at this.
Probably when I was like 17 or 18, I started to get quite good. I was still like only okay. I was doing well at under 18 level.
Yeah.
But I went to the Senior World Championships in New Zealand. They were in March, April 2008. I was doing my leaving cert. And I had to convince my parents. I was like, here, look, I'm going to do loads of study. Just let me go to New Zealand I was going to do Senior World Championships, and then actually under 18 World Championships were on a week later after. So I was like, I'll get like 2 for 1 by going the whole way to New Zealand. So I headed off to New Zealand, didn't do a tap of study. Like that was basically whatever chance I had of doing well in my leaving cert.
Were you good in school?
Yeah, I really liked it, but I also wasn't that arsed by it. Yeah. Like I had a great
Did
time.
it come easy for you, or?
I don't know if it came easy. Like it wasn't hard, but my teachers were always disappointed that I wasn't living to my full potential.
Okay, yeah.
Like my sister and my sister and then my younger brother were like academically excellent, and they just were so frustrated that they could just see me cruising along, never doing my homework, like just like happy out. But anyway, I went to New Zealand, didn't do a tap of study while I was there. 5 weeks in New Zealand, and there at the qualifiers for
what point
the
of the
Beijing
year?
Olympics. This was sort of March, April.
And you're
Just
leaving sort of
before.
here.
But I got to see all of these girls like qualifying for the Olympics or winning their Olympic trials, or also the ones that didn't qualify.
Massive eye-opener.
How upset they were by not
Yeah.
qualifying. And I was just like, that was the moment where I was like, oh, I want to go to the London Olympics.
Yeah.
Up until that point, I hadn't really thought about it. But
Yeah.
then when I was seeing, I think, like the emotion of qualifying, and Ciara Pilo qualified the laser class there, and I was like, this is actually what I want to do. And then the next week I was 5th at the Youth World Championships, and
Whoa.
like I was delighted with that. And then I was like, yeah, I don't really care about the leaving cert. So for my 6th year holiday, I took my mum's Volvo, put a trailer on the back of it. I just passed my driving test and drove off to Europe for 6
you?
weeks. Yeah,
At what age?
18.
No way.
With a group or just?
No,
By
your
yourself?
own?
Yeah, my sister came with me for the first part of the drive, but she hadn't passed her driving test. So and my dad wouldn't get us a GPS because he said we had to learn how to read maps.
No way.
So we had one big map of
Your
Western
parents
Europe.
are quite
I was going to go
relaxed.
back. Yeah, these are really relaxed.
Yeah, my mum figured, she was like, Volvos are kind of safe. If you get in a crash, you'll probably be all right.
You're 6'1" as well, aren't you?
But yeah, I'm pretty tall. But yeah, I just drove all around Europe and had a great time. Went to all these
Sailing.
events.
So when you were taking that car to Europe, you were taking it to Europe to do events, sailing events. So
As an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
and so did you have just for people now to understand, did you have your boat on a trailer in the back?
Yeah,
Where were you sleeping?
in Airbnbs, or Airbnb wasn't around then,
Yeah.
but the equivalent,
B&Bs.
B&Bs and apartments, and there was in Europe there's those sort of camping holiday
Yeah.
villages everywhere. Generally
Okay.
those, yeah. And I don't even think
Were
I had
you
a credit
nervous?
card. No.
No problem.
So all your school friends, like I went to my Leave Us Your holiday, I went to Ibiza. Like,
I think I did Magaluf.
like, what did they think of you heading off? Like,
I don't know. I think I was just like, it just seemed like, it didn't seem weird at all at the time. I was just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I booked all the ferries myself. I drove across England. I remember it was really rainy, and I was thinking, it's this kind of dangerous. I also used to drive so fast. Looking back on it now, I'm so careful driving with the trailer now. But when I was younger, it didn't occur to me that I had 3 boats in a trailer as well, because we had 3 lasers. So the way that I paid for the trip was I had my boat and my sister's boat, and then there was a third boat that we rented when we were at the events. And then when I was going
You
to the
rented
other
out to
events,
people.
rented
way.
out to people to pay for it. So
wow,
Americans
smart.
and things like that.
Yeah.
So just explain that to people, because I think people don't understand sometimes when people think sailing, right, they just think loads of money and everyone who's in it is minted,
Yeah.
and that it obviously isn't the case, right, with everyone. So you had these 3 boats.
Yeah.
2 you were sailing yourselves, you and your sister Claudine.
Yeah.
And then the 3rd you were renting out to people to make a few quid to pay for the trip.
Yeah.
So how were you finding these people to rent the boat out to?
So the boat that we sailed, the Laser, it's super basic. It's one sail. It's very cheap. Like a brand new Laser. Like at the Olympics and World Championships, you're supplied your equipment. So you arrive and you pull a number out of a hat, and it's like, okay, you've got boat number 6. Off you go.
right.
There you go. So there's no equipment advantage for anyone. And
That's
then
still the way it is.
It's still the way it is. And even when you're going to Europe, people will be flying from America or Australia, and they don't want to shipping a boat or anything,
Okay.
so they try and rent a boat. Or when I'd be going to Australia or America to sail,
You would do
I'd
the
try and
same.
rent a boat. And there's, I think, 250,000 lasers in the world.
Whoa.
So everywhere there's a sailing club or a yacht club or a beach, there's probably lasers. And the boat, if it's in kind of okay condition, it's going to be fine.
boy.
You're good. It's going to be pretty good to race. So that was.
a clever idea.
So that was how, I paid for, basically helped pay for the trip. And then at the next event, Claudine had flown home because it was youth events after that. So then I had 2 boats to rent out. So it basically meant I paid for not all of my trip, but it kind of evened all out that I got to drive around Europe.
Yeah, you weren't
and-
ringing home every kind of couple of days looking
Yeah,
for money
yeah.
from the folks.
Well, you weren't funding though back then.
No.
No funding.
No funding
And you were
at
after
that
competing
stage.
at the World Senior Championships
Yeah.
at this stage.
I'd chosen to do that myself.
Yeah,
so I'd been able to qualify through the Irish rankings, but I'd chosen to go and do it.
And did you have a plan to go to college, or what was the?
Yeah, I thought I was going to get 600 points in my leaving. I thought I'd aced it.
And that didn't quite work out.
No, I hadn't aced it.
She got 550.
But for the amount of work I put in, I actually did grand. But yeah, I remember thinking, I was like, I think I obviously, I kind of knew enough to think I'd done well in every exam, but actually obviously didn't have any of the detail you need to do well. So it just kind of did average in everything.
So were you the
But
youngest in your family? You got
I'm the middle.
You're the middle.
Yeah, older sister, younger brother. So yeah, I went to UCD to do science, and I did the whole first year.
Why science?
You do general science in first year, and then you specialize in what you're interested in second year. But
you did the whole of first year.
I did the whole of first year, and then in 2009 I was 19. It was my first year on the senior circuit, and I just did way better than I should have. Way better than my level at the time.
Was it because you kind of came through late as well that your
I think I
trajectory
just
was
maybe just started.
shooting
I
up?
started getting very good very quickly.
Yeah.
And there was a Europa Cups. They're kind of smallish. They're not big but small events in Europe. And I went to one and I won it. And I didn't even know I'd won. I was like, came in and they're like calling my name in the prize giving for first. And I was like, I won? I'm like beating all these girls that like are my heroes kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was only a 3-day event though, so it was kind of small. But then the European Championships, I was in the maybe like 32nd or something, which again was a really good result for me to, like, there's 120 competitors. So I was, you know, up at the top part of the fleet. And then we went to Japan for the World Championships.
What year was this? This was
2009.
Okay.
So I was 19 in Japan at the World Championships. I went out and I just had like the week of my life. It was 6 days of racing and I didn't have any bad races. Like it was actually my second best ever World Championships looking back on my career.
Yeah.
And I finished 8th.
Used to get nervous.
I don't even, so we actually had a coach at the time and he was just telling me not to look at the results. So I was just kind of having a good time and I was like, didn't think I was doing as well as I was doing. I was just every day going out. I remember thinking like, oh, I'm doing pretty well now. Like I was beating the Beijing gold medalist in one race. Like she was right, I was first and she was second and I was like, God, I'm ahead of Anna Tunnicliffe. Like I'm like, this is class. She's actually now like top 10 in the CrossFit World Championships a few times. Yeah. And I was like, wow, I'm actually doing pretty well here.
And were you still in college at the time then?
I'd finished for the summer. So
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Anyway, I ended up finishing 8th at those World Championships. And that just like, that
Did that
completely
put
changed
you
my
then
life.
like going, you can win a medal in London?
Well, it was suddenly like, okay, I'm actually like, I have a good chance of qualifying for the Olympics in London. It also put me onto world-class funding from
So
the
things happen
Sports
really
Council.
quickly.
And then I also got a performance bonus of €5,000, which, remember, they used to do performance
Yeah.
bonuses back then, which... it
I'm
was,
sorry there now, you're after bringing up a memory. In Barcelona, I finished 4th twice, right?
Yeah.
Derval finished 3rd, got the performance bonus.
I really enjoyed spending it. Just so
I
you know.
finished 4th twice, got upgraded to bronze when the Russian guy was done.
I didn't get
You
it.
never-
And the other guy should have been done as well, so I got no performance bonus. I could do it with that 5. It was $5,000.
yeah,
And you know,
nice
and
holiday.
So
'cause
there's
it's-
no retrospective
performance bonus.
Not
Yeah.
to
And the
all.
thing about that money, not to just make you feel worse about it, is because you never consider it yours, it is a bonus.
It's
Like
a massive
I
bonus,
remember when
yeah.
it came into my bank account, that performance bonus, and I was like, it's like unplanned for money. And you know, in your career, when you never have unplanned for money, you're like, this is unreal.
But imagine how broke I was back then to get an extra $5,000
Yeah.
and knowing that your funding was going to go up. It would have been huge. Yeah, but never. But go on. It's not about me.
No,
not-
it's
it's
Like
What would
terrible.
you spent it on, Rob?
did you say
Probably putting it into a camp then the next year, you know.
so that was a world championships in Japan? Did I hear you right? Did you say that changed your life?
yeah, because so my
happened
parents, they wanted to support us as much as possible.
Yeah.
But they had like a 15 grand overdraft to send us to Japan for those World Championships.
Serious.
Like they didn't have the money to send us. I
But
probably
that
wouldn't have.
dispels the myth that
Yeah.
sailors are all minted, because that's what I would think.
Yeah.
I think that's
You
the,
know.
like the reality. But like I probably wouldn't have pushed to go to Japan to those World Championships. But my sister really wanted to go. And it was actually like having her, like she was the one that was always like, no, we need to go and do this.
So
And
touch on that. So you go to, it's not just you at that World Championships, it's also your sister.
Yeah.
And at this stage, it was, from how I remember things, and I could be wrong, right? It was Claudine that was in the family. So Claudine's trying to get to the London Olympics, right? And you're her baby sister, and the two of you go to Japan. Your parents have this overdraft. What happens with Claudine out there?
What age is Claudine, lads? Sorry.
Claudine's, she's 3 years older than me. So
Okay,
I was
so
19,
still
so she would have
young,
been 22 at the time. And I guess like she was like the perfect example for me because she really wanted to go to the Olympics, but I could see everything she was doing and I'd just try and do it better and not make any of the mistakes she was making.
Clever.
And I'd be
She's
like,
like a serial killer, isn't she?
I was a bit
Ken
like,
Regan going to Russia. She
Yeah.
just had the example who was better.
Yeah.
You know?
it was, and I'd see my sister like, she's so talented and so good at so many things, but she loves doing so many different things, and she's so kind and generous to her friends, and she's like, she does so. And I was just like, they're dead weight. Like, you know, I was like, I don't need them. And like, and Claudine was like, you know, she'd be thinking about other people and how they're getting on all the time. She still is to this day.
Yeah.
she's
so
really kind.
so kind,
So you
thinking
were
about
able to
people
cut
all the
out
time.
all of the, yeah,
and I'm like,
noise.
yeah, I'm very like, I try to not be an asshole.
not as nice
Yeah,
as
yeah.
that.
But I'm definitely not as like generous or nice as my sister.
You're very laser focused, and in a good way, because you need that to be at the level you went to.
yeah.
Is that a
But-
boat pun there?
Laser
Yeah.
focus. I know.
Laser
Yeah, I know.
It's good to
Nice.
say
Thanks. No, I've been on the sailing scene. So you're both there. So you get this result of your life. which changed your life.
Yeah.
How does it go for Claudine that time?
Claudine didn't perform so well at those Worlds. She was maybe about 50th overall. So if she had come into the top 40, she would have got international funding. And that was both of our aims going there, was to get international funding. But then
to be able to have money to do it.
To be able to have money to do it. But then my world class result, it changed everything, because suddenly then people really wanted to help. So
you were able to generate more funds.
I actually did go back to UCD for about 2 weeks, and I was sitting in a lecture and I was like, I could go to Australia for the winter. And I went in, I was like, I'm deferring my degree, and that was, I never went back. But it was...
Did it just open up a new landscape for you, and then you start to go, what do I need to do now?
It was like in 2009, like when you're a 19-year-old and you're told you're going to get 20 grand. Like I genuinely...
no money, it's massive.
I thought like I'd won the lotto. And then people... Like particularly the sailing community, my parents actually wrote letters to their friends asking could they help out, because I wasn't going to actually get that funding until March
staged
2010.
Yeah.
So I needed, and that performance bonus actually it went into my dad's bank account. I didn't get any of it, unfortunately. But it did help. That made a huge difference.
Was there pressure though, Annalise, do you know, like coming from that world where most people are really wealthy, and when you don't have it, is there any sense of awkwardness or...
Not really, because I think you'd be surprised. Like, dinghy sailing in Ireland isn't actually... It's a lot of people doing it on a budget. Like, a lot of events, it's everyone camping on the grass on the side of the road. There isn't... Like once you start getting to big yacht stuff, it's obviously... There has to be a lot of money behind it. But at dinghy stuff, a lot of it's families that are into it, and... You know, they're probably spending all of their extra income on the sport.
Okay, so there's more passion
find a way to get it
their
done,
family holidays are going to dinghy events.
Okay.
That's what their family holiday is. So like instead of going to France or going to Spain, like that's what I would say.
And the holidays revolved around the racing.
And then they'll be like in a tent or a camper van or whatever, and that's the family holiday.
What was it like down with your sister Claudine? Kind of like, obviously you're very close and you travelled and all that together, and then suddenly it shifted now where you're the person who is tracking for Olympic Games.
I think like it was really hard for when we were still sort of, when I was a little bit younger and I started getting better than her. We used to fight, like kill each other.
Yeah.
Sisters kill each other at the best of times.
My mum had driven us over to some event in east coast of England, and we were in a race and we were like doing really well. And she turns around and she's like, if you go by me on this downwind, I'm going to fucking kill you. And anyway, and then we just get into this massive scrap, and we're like shouting at each other around the race course, and we end up coming like last and second last because we were like shouting abuse at each other so much. My mum was like, I need to do something about this. So she actually brought this like sort of sports psychologist, life coach, who was also involved in sailing, over from England for a weekend to do like a weekend of coaching with us. But we didn't do any sailing. She just like got like these big like A1 pads of paper and like crayons and got us to like do all sorts of drawings, and she kind of kept on telling us, she was like, you girls, like, you have to see the advantage you have, like there's two of you, you can be training partners for each other. And she's like,
taking notes here from my two little girls.
That's what I'm thinking,
because they kill each other like, because they are so competitive, and it's hard because I see it like as a parent, and you're going home and when one
does well and the
other is really excelling than the other, it has an awful effect on
the other,
the sibling, like, and how do you manage that correctly? Like, we were obviously trying to manage, but does the girl behind, like, because your sister was older than you,
and then I started catching up then her.
Do you have more of an appreciation then for being the number one child?
But and it's really interesting what you said, where you were watching her and what she was doing. There's a good book, The Bold Supremacy, where a lad went over and looked at, like, you know, the Jamaican sprinters, and on average the people in the family who really excelled were like the third, fourth and fifth born.
Yeah.
Because they followed what the
other
ones
watched. The older siblings do. It's
how'd you get on with the sister now before?
Oh, great, yeah.
It's clearly out there.
But this English sort of sports psych kind of coach, she was like, okay girls, you're going to be sister pro. And anyway, I think we actually were probably just taking the piss out of her, to be honest. But we kept on going, funny. Sister pro, and we'd high five. And we actually still do it. We're like, sister pro, and high five. Like with the English accent on as well. Like, you know, it's just like
Mary Poppins.
Yeah, but it was. And then like Claudine, like when I started getting much better, she actually became like one of my biggest supporters.
Yeah.
And the sort of Marit, who would have been one of my main competitors in Olympic sailing, her older sister Annika, she had a conversation with Claudine. She's like, I realised that my younger sister is just way better than me, and now I'm just going to have to look forward to going to the Olympics as a spectator. But she's like, but I want to be a supporter.
Yeah.
And I think Claudine was like, oh, okay, I kind of see the same. So it was, that was
very noble.
So you're in kind of 2009 now, and you kind of make great progress.
Mm-hmm.
The mindset shifts towards London. I can do this. I can get there.
Mm-hmm.
What way does it work in terms of qualification?
Well, then it was just, I just had the best few years of my life. Like, I just got better all the time, and there was no pressure.
Really?
I was like sailing around the world with Peter, Derval's husband, all the time, because he was going for the London Olympics as well. Like in 2011, it was actually a late qualification for sailing.
So what was the group like when you say you were sailing around the world? There was you, there was Peter.
There was Peter.
Who else was there?
He was sailing with Dave.
Burrows.
There was James Espy in the laser. There was Matt and Ryan in the 49er. There was Jur and Scott in the 470, and then there was another guy, Ross, who was sailing.
And are you all separate events, or are any of you in competition with each other?
None of us are in competition with each other, but we're all like lots of big events. You end up like World Cup events, and
so you're a big
World
support system
Championships.
to each other as well.
You're all together.
But you were the youngest, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I was kind of the baby of the squad.
Yeah, and I remember there was a real sense of, because, myself, I was going off doing athletics events and Peter was going off doing these sailing events, and, we were living together in Dublin, so myself and Peter's base was Dublin, so I would have been hearing a lot about what was going on, and I remember the real sense I always got from Peter was like, Annalise is the youngest and she's a girl and we're all lads, so like we kind of have to mind her, and like you didn't need minding, but it was like a big brother thing almost with all of them, where they were like, we need to mind her and support her so she can be the best because she's really good. Like that's how his vibe was about it.
Although they did bring me out in Miami on my 21st birthday, Peter and Dave, and I had to be sent home in a taxi at 9 p.m. because they'd got me so drunk. They were like, I just had my best ever result, and so it was a mixture of delighted by how well I'd done, and then also it was my 21st birthday on the last day, and then Peter and Dave thought it'd be really funny to bring me out for dinner and just give me all these category 5 hurricane drinks in Miami, which are I think just pure rum with some pineapple juice or something.
That's the job.
Yeah.
I remember the 21st celebrations, alright. I remember hearing about them. So you were all travelling around, and then London came calling.
Mm-hmm. And like I qualified so easily for London. It was like I was at the World Championships, and I was just.
So how would you qualify for the Olympics in sailing?
So normally they'll have a big major World Championships, and that'll be where the first sort of wave of nation spots go. And as well, like in sailing, only one person per nation gets to go.
Okay.
So sometimes in countries there will be 2 or 3 possible competitors for that one spot, but I was actually the only person in the radial, and Peter and Dave were the only guys in the star at that stage for that qualification. So it was the World Championships were in Perth in Australia, and I sailed so well. It was a 6-day event, but after 2 days it was split into gold and silver fleet, and actually not enough people had got into gold fleet, so there was more quota spots in gold fleet, or there was even some in silver fleet were getting spots. Yeah. So I knew I'd qualified for the Olympics 2 days into the World Championships. Wow. So then I could just enjoy myself for the rest of the week. I was going into the final race. I think I was 4th place going into the medal race. And then I was leading the medal race. So I was in bronze medal position for a World Championship. And I was like, this is a really important moment because I think I need to have a major medal under my belt before the Olympics next year. And then they had really good TV footage all that week for those World Championships. And the helicopter came like right above me to film me leading the race, but they came too close, and the downdraft came onto me, and I basically stopped and I started going backwards.
No.
And then everyone caught up with me, and
oh my God.
I think I ended up then finishing like 8th in the race.
Are you going mad?
And I was going mad, but I didn't know what to do. What do I do? Go away, helicopter. So I ended up finishing 6th overall at the Worlds because of it. And I was so upset. And then I was cycling my bike back afterwards, being so upset. Like I should have been really happy because I qualified for the Olympics, but I was so upset I'd missed out on a medal. And I had all of my ropes in a plastic bag on my handlebars, and they went into my front wheel, and I went over the handlebars of my bike, and I knocked all my teeth out.
Oh my God.
And I remember it being like what should have been like a really happy moment for me turned into like a disaster of a day. I was like,
oh my God.
But actually we went to a dentist that night, and for an extortionate amount of money. I got my teeth fixed. So
you're on the side of a road.
yeah.
All your teeth have been knocked out. Probably blood everywhere.
But I was actually just more upset about the fact that I'd missed out on a medal.
Yeah.
But I then had a really good excuse.
That wasn't your fault, though.
It wasn't, but it was just one of those like, it's like, it was the most bizarre thing. It never happened
Has that ever
since.
happened before? Yeah,
And I don't think it, like, it was just, I think it was just.
And was it acknowledged, or was it just?
I think people, like, everyone saw it happening, but then it's also, sort of, my competitors were delighted because, you know,
There's no judges there to go, hang on a second, this isn't right. Like.
You see, but they'd never experienced something like that before, because it was, the Australians have put in such a good effort to do this, like, amazing media coverage and everything.
But like, you're on that boat by yourself and this is happening. Like, it's not as if you can turn to someone or rant and rave. Like, how do you manage that yourself, because you still have
so hard, yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's not like if we're on the track, you turn, you start moaning and giving out.
There's someone in the lane next to you, yeah.
Whereas you're by yourself.
But
it's
it
not
was
as if you visualised it before your race. When the helicopter comes
yeah,
off.
Well, it has happened in athletics. Maybe the one was it Paul Brazil
when the camera
when
came
the
down
camera,
his
the boom
face,
of the camera, and he
whacked.
Yeah.
he had to dodge it. Yeah, they made him run the race by himself again.
But anyway, that was that was my only like disappointment that year in 2011. I was just like 21, and I actually was like, I'm going to take over the world. Like, I felt so good.
Confidence was
Confidence,
up.
yeah. Confidence
Everything
was
felt
up.
easy.
Everything felt easy.
Savage new teeth.
Yeah, new teeth.
Yeah.
New front teeth. Oh God, and I'd worn braces for about 6 years when I was a teenager as well. So I was like, it was a real thing. Like, I'd only cut my braces off about 3 years beforehand, and then I was like, my teeth. But it was, then just like London Olympics, like they were coming up so quickly, and like we were all going really well. And sailing team, Peter and Dave won the World Cup event like 6 weeks before the Olympics in Weymouth, and I was third at it. So like both of us were like going really well going into the Olympics, and I was just like having such a laugh. Like,
no, you didn't feel any pressure.
Yeah.
No, not really. I just used to dream about how I was going to win all the races. Like, I was probably being a bit naive, but that was just.
So what age you then got into London?
22. The opening ceremony, I like insisted that I went up to London. So we like drove up to London.
Yeah, because where was the sailing that was where in London?
It was down in Weymouth. So it was about 3 hours from London. I'm so glad I did go up for the opening ceremony because it was class. And then
Never been to one.
Stayed. You never been?
No. Have you?
I did Athens. Did the Athens.
It was 1 out of
ceremony.
5.
1 out of 5, yeah.
I did
Didn't go
Athens.
down here.
Did you go to the opening ceremony in your next two Olympics?
I went in Rio because I actually wasn't going to go because I was like, no, I don't want to tire
You
my
held the
legs.
flag? Were you with the flag bearer?
No, I never got to hold the flag.
Oh, this is all first.
Never.
Who was it?
Yeah.
Was it Katie?
Katie was the flag for the opening ceremony, and Gary O'Donovan was the flag bearer for the closing ceremony in Rio.
Okay.
But I wasn't going to go in Rio. And then Torben Grail, he's like a legend in sailing. He's won 5 Olympic medals. And we were training from his sailing club in Rio. And I was like, I'm not going to go to the opening ceremony. He was like, Annalise, I went to all 5 opening ceremonies of all 5 Olympics I went to. I think it's good you go. And that was what changed my mind. Yeah. And then I would have gone to Tokyo, except I wasn't allowed because of COVID.
I think it took too much energy.
Yeah, like it kind of did, but then like it was nearly like for me.
You seem more laid back though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Different personality types.
We're highly strong.
Yeah. I'd be worse if I was sitting on the couch watching, because then I'd be like overthinking things.
Well, we were in Japan. I think for Beijing we were in Japan.
I think, and this is from like when my career would have tracked alongside Peter's career in sailing, and like the different personalities in sailing. Like when you go out in your boat out into the water for an event. So say you go out for an event and you get going. When you go out in your boat, you're out there for how many hours?
Oh, you can be out for like 8 to 10 hours more.
Yeah.
Yeah, the worst is summertime. Long evenings in the summer, because they'll just keep you out there till like 9 or 10 p.m.
Stuff?
You have your coach who's in a rib. So you'll bring out like you'll bring out like everything, because you might go out there and the wind's really good and you're just like bang bang, like 2 races you're back in 3 hours, but there might be no wind, or you might be hanging around because the wind is being
So what
shifty.
are you doing on it? There's no wind, you're just bobbing about.
You bob about, yeah. You kind of, you literally sit. You hopefully have like an umbrella if it's sunny, because you're like trying to hide
on
from the
your
sun.
phone or something, or just.
I don't know. I never would have gone on my phone because I thought that would have been kind of distracting. But yeah, you'd bring out like a big cooler bag full of snacks. Like you bring everything, like sandwiches in case you're out for a really long time. Like energy bars, bananas. Sometimes we would listen to a bit of music if there was really no wind. Like it's very much like a patience waiting game, like sitting around.
I would have never thought. I would have thought they just would have maybe cancelled it and come back later on or something like.
You see, sometimes it can take so long to get out to race courses, because they're not just. It isn't just a case of okay, you're going to race now. And it takes an hour from when they say leave the land to get out.
So you literally have to go with the flow, like mentally.
Yeah, you just kind of have to, and you have to be like very good at like switching off and then being able to switch back on again, because suddenly like a little bit of wind will come in. They're like, okay, we're doing a race now,
so let's go.
And you have to be ready to.
And you meant about your coach. How often can your coach come out to you in a race?
Once you started racing, they can't communicate with you at all.
That's mad, because I was even at a kids open sports at the weekend, and they held the kids on the line for like a minute, and it's like, just fucking leave him go. Just leave him run.
Yeah.
Do you know? Imagine being stuck out for hours. Right, let's go.
Yeah.
But sure, Peter went out and did like this totally casual little race with Archie the other day. Archie, who's 5.
And Pete's fierce laid back as well, isn't he?
That's the thing.
So laid back.
So laid back. And like he did this little race, and like they were gone out on the water for, I'd say, three and a bit hours. Archie's 5.
He probably did snacks though, did he?
He had jellies.
So picnic and out in the
But I've gone out in the airboat, not a sailing boat, with Derval and Peter, like, and Peter would let Regan, and I'd be the waves. I'd be genuinely stressed out of my head, like, and I'd be looking at him.
But it's such a good sport for kids, because it gives you so much independence.
It's
teaching
brilliant.
you how to steer things.
But he's genuinely so, like, I would leave the boat being with Peter going, he's so solid, man.
Yeah.
I feel like a basket case.
We're way more sprinters, and he would say that as well. Like sprinters are way more, not sprinters, sorry, athletics is like way more angsty and way more like you kind of react to your emotions, and you're like
he never embroils in any drama. Never.
No. And you're very
Shanna
like
getting them
that
vibes
as well.
off of you.
So anyway, sorry, because now we're getting distracted by your personalities. So you go to London, right? You're all happy, clappy. It's only going to go well. That's how you felt mentally.
I was so fast.
It could only go well.
I'd gone to European Championships just beforehand. It was like super light winds, and I like don't like light wind.
Explain that to people. Why don't you like light wind, and what do you mean by light wind?
So light wind is like when
something's completely different coming into my head.
Yeah, I know. I
you a minute ago, Derv. We heard it.
Yeah. Go on.
But like I guess growing up in Ireland, you're used to it being kind of wet, like rain, wind, like strong wind. We get like, what's our prevailing wind? Southwesterly. So it's always it's very often, or not very often that it's it's very calm outside. It's quite often there's nice wind.
Windy.
So you grow up getting used to that, and then I guess because I love like the physical challenge of it as well. Windy weather sailing it's very physically challenging, and that's what I really enjoyed. Well, like light weather stuff,
just playing into your strengths.
Light weather stuff is more like how like it's all like finesse, and it's like kind of like playing an Xbox game. Like there's minimal energy requirement, and it's all about moving as little as possible and trying to have the sail like the wind just hitting your sail perfectly. And I was probably less into the finesse, more into the like manhandling the boat around kind of thing. So but I went to this European Championships in France, which I knew was going to be light winds, to kind of make sure that I had a bit of a light wind base. And I came 7th, which in a light wind event for me was really good. So I knew in Weymouth it's very similar to Ireland. It's probably going to be windy, but if there's a few light wind days, I can still do pretty well on those days. I'm not going to win races on those light wind days, but if I can get top 10s on those light wind days, they're going to get me through.
It's a good result.
Yeah, but anyway, so the Olympics started, and I was just like so much faster than everyone. I was just like cruising around. It was like I was in a motorboat. And like I dropped my boat the day I got it, and it got all scratched. And I was like a little bit worried it was going to slow me down, but it actually didn't at all. Like I was just hammering around.
But the thing is, like, you're still thinking, like, in the performance element in your sport, the light winds, it's no different to the boxers going to Russia, me going to Poland. We're still figuring out how can we be the best. You going to Loughborough, going to Dublin, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But even like at a young age as well, you bought into that. Or what do I need to do?
Yeah.
So you obviously did a bit of research. You were well aware of conditions and your own strengths and weaknesses. Like,
but even instinctively watching.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people wouldn't be like that at that young age. You might need a bit of coaching in that space.
It was like going into London, like I was thinking, like I was like, I'm the best prepared I could be for the time that's given to me. In the back of my mind, I was like, I think I need another year. I was like, I think I have everything to do really well here, but I don't think I have the experience to deal with it. And I kind of knew that in the back of my head. But then also I was very relaxed about it all. Like, and I was like, whenever I'd have like an interview, I'd be like, I'm just here for experience. Rio 2016, that's where my head's at.
Yeah.
And you were trying to win a medal in London.
Oh yeah, like I thought I was going to win a gold medal in London, but like I dreamt about winning it
yourself.
But like, I just knew, I was like, it's way easier just to tell media, I'm just here to like get a bit of experience. Because you don't like, I was very aware, I was like, I don't need to put that pressure on myself. And like first day, went out and won both races. which was actually quite normal for me at that stage. I'd won 2 races on days at World Championships and loads of events over the previous 2 years.
So there was no massive high after that.
I was just like, I just went out and did my thing and felt like I'd sailed very smart, good races, and I was happy with it. And I came in and I was kind of chilled, went through the mix zone, had to do a couple of interviews. I was like, well, yeah, happy enough for that first day, good start. Didn't think anything of it. Went out on the second day. We were on 2 different race courses for that day, the medal race course and then inside the harbour. And I was like, this is going to be a really difficult day. I was like, if I get like 2 tenths, I'll be really happy, because very tricky race courses. Went into the first race and I'm just like, oh, I'm winning again. Like, it was so like I didn't feel like I was doing anything special. But then sometimes I think when you are going at your best, you're not like, it is just coming
it's like
so
a state
easily.
of flow.
Yeah, it's the flow stage.
flow
Just
stage,
like just like cruise around, like won the race by so much, and then went inside the harbour. I was like, no, this race is probably going to be difficult. It's a bit different now. Won that race by so much as well. And then I came in and obviously like every person had been thrown on the train down to Weymouth to do an interview with me that day, because suddenly in the mix zone it was like, 10 interviews on TV and then another more on radio and then more on print media. And everyone was like, no one's ever won the first 4 races of an Olympic sailing regatta before. Have you got the gold medal guaranteed already?
Yeah.
And that was the first time that in my brain I was like, oh my God, I might win a gold medal. I might mess this up. And then started thinking about this.
Did you have anybody before, like I'm just thinking now, like somebody like Rashida going into Paris, did you have somebody to speak to you about that pressure in London, or did you have to navigate it yourself?
Not really. And I don't think any of us
that's so important, isn't it?
I don't think any of us were prepared for it, because even like Rory, my coach, I don't think, he was still really young as well at the time. And Kate Kirby, that was like her first Olympics as like Kate was my sports psych from when I was 15. I still have notes from like before she was even a sports psych kind of thing. So like the 3 of us we weren't prepared for what that looked like.
And it's the questions. It's suddenly you're answering questions that you haven't been asked before, and then we all tend to maybe overanalyze things and overthink things, and suddenly, like you said there, oh, maybe I could win a gold medal. Yeah. Oh God, how am I going to do this?
And what if I lose the gold medal?
And what if I lose it? Yeah.
I think that was probably what I started thinking. What if I lose
the gold medal?
And like I sleep like, and a baby is the wrong word because babies don't sleep that well, but like I lie down and I wake up when my alarm goes off. Yeah. Like I am just dead to the world for like quite happily. If I allow myself 10 hours a night, like I'll just sleep for 10 hours a night, which actually isn't that useful now. I'm realising it was great as an athlete. You're applauded it. As a full adult, it's like, you're doing what? You're sleeping for 10 hours. But I always slept really well. Like never had any problems with nerves or anything like that. And that was like the first night of my life I remember like not being able to sleep.
Okay.
And I was like, because I was so nervous.
Is there 4 days?
There's 6 days of racing.
6 days of racing, okay.
So how much time did you have left at this stage when that kind of kicked in?
So that was after 2 days of racing. Like, looking back, I should have been like, I am in such a sweet situation here.
Yeah.
I have done 4 races. I have won all of them. So I'm on 4 points. Like, I just need to just
keep doing
cruise
what you're
along,
doing.
just keep on doing. But I did. And to be honest, I actually still sailed really well for the next 3 days. I just made like a few small mistakes. But then in sailing, it's a sport where everyone makes mistakes. So I don't look back. I don't look back and go, oh, I should have done this differently or that differently, because I did so many things really well.
Good, yeah.
And I went into the medal race on 33 points, which is after 10 races.
Was that leading?
It wasn't. It was actually joint third, or first and second were on 32 points, and myself and Evie were on 33 points.
So it was
completely unheard of in Olympic sailing.
From? What countries?
So Lily was from China, Marit was Dutch, myself, and then Evie was from Belgium. So there was the 4 of us, and we couldn't be beaten. We were going to come first, second, third, and fourth.
Okay.
It was just who was going to come where.
And in the medal race, it's double points. So first gets 2 points, 10 gets 20 points. So it's like it didn't matter in the race if one of us, it was whatever order, but someone could be first, someone could be fifth, someone could be 8th and 9th, and that would be first, second, third, fourth. It was. Okay. So it was like nearly like our whole week of racing meant nothing. Yeah. And it was just this one 20-minute race to decide who was going to win an Olympic medal. And I was just like so scared.
Really?
Yeah, scary,
I was just, because all I could think about was like, what happened? Like, I'm going to finish 4th. Oh. Like, it's all I could think. I didn't see the opportunity I had.
And was like, you mentioned Kate at that time, like coaches, like did you express that to anybody how you were feeling, or did you just go?
I kind of just went in on myself and just was afraid to say anything. And I also thought,
why? Because
you said it's real.
Weak.
If you say it, it's real. And then even like the medal race course, I had won that race. We had one race on that course on the second day, and I'd won the race by so far. I was so fast, upwind and downwind. But on the way out to the race course, I was sailing out. I felt slow downwind. And Rory, something had happened to his rib, so he didn't come out straight away. And everyone else, their coaches came out and then towed them out to the course.
And
I was sailing out on my own.
Stressed,
And it was like, I was getting stressed, and I was like, and normally I wouldn't have cared at all where Rory was. Like, I was like, oh, whatever. And I was like, where is he? Why isn't he here yet? And then he did actually come then and brought me out. And then I was like, I didn't feel good downwind. But I was afraid if I said to him, I don't feel good downwind, I'll make it real and I actually won't be good downwind. And I was like, if I just don't say anything, once I get into the race, I'll figure it out and it'll go away.
And once you're in the race, he's gone. Like, he can't help you. You have to figure it out on your own.
And then anyway, so I was still upwind, I was still super fast.
And I suppose if you did say it then and you've sensed a bit of panic off of him, then you're panicked more. And
it was. I wish I had said it to him though, because it was such a simple fix.
Yeah, hindsight,
I was just so tight. I was just doing something wrong. That was,
But you're young as well. And you kind of tend to like you said. I just won't say this, and the race will start. Everything will work out okay.
Yeah. And you haven't experienced it before.
It did that before. So you're kind of just almost kind of hoping it'll all be all right.
Hope that it'll all just go away. And anyway, started the race and I was first at the first mark. So I was like, this is good. I'm like gold medal position. Got onto the downwind and I'm like, I'm bad downwind. Like, downwind had been one of my strengths all week.
Wow.
And then suddenly I'm there. I'm bad downwind. And I'm sitting in the middle of the boat. And everyone goes by me. I'm like 10th by the bottom mark. But then again, I'm so fast upwind, which had been one of my, like, that was, all week. I'm back to second the next time on the top mark. And then again on the downwind, I sit there and I'm like, I'm so bad downwind. I'm just like hoping people don't pass me out. And they just do, because I'm just sitting there like a bag of potatoes, like shaking bag of potatoes.
You're not making any good racing decisions downwind. Is that right?
Yeah, I just wasn't even sailing the boat. Like, I look like
paralysed.
I look like a beginner has been thrown into the boat and is just sitting there hanging on for dear life.
Okay.
That's kind of what I look like. And when I've rewatched the race, I'm like, who is that person? I'm just like basically hanging on, trying not to fall out of the boat.
Would you say, because we've spoken about like bombing at championships, is that the equivalent in the sailing?
Probably.
Kind of just...
It was pretty bad. And then I was still, again, got back up to bronze medal position for the last top mark. And I actually did sail a little bit better on the last downwind, but the Belgian girl just got by me just before the last mark to the finish.
Oh, really?
And how did you feel in that moment?
I was just so crushed because I just thought that was it. That was my chance. That it was done. I was like, the Olympics, like the possibility of someone like me that's not like super naturally talented to perform this well ever again is not a possibility. And that's it. I'm never going to win an Olympic medal. And I've just thrown it away. And I was just so sad. I was like...
I was in the village when you came to the village.
I know, we went to McDonald's.
Yeah.
I had fillet of fish, which I have never had again since, but
Good
I felt I needed to sample something on the menu.
Some day up really, didn't it?
You were so sad. You were so sad, and I remember I knew it was my last Olympics and I knew I was done. And I just remember thinking, you have so much time, you'll be fine. And but you couldn't take that perspective at the time because you were so sad. And I was like, no, like, you're so young. You fourth in an Olympics is ridiculous at your age. Like that, I was like, I would love a fourth, and you were just so sad about it, which was interesting.
I think it was just that feeling that I'd thrown it away, and you don't like that. That's a problem with the Olympics. It's so hard. It's only once every 4 years, and if you for you to actually manage to peak at that time and get everything right, and not be sick or injured or. To actually qualify for it, like to get there and be in that position, it's like...
But I had the exact same feelings. Like in Beijing, I was first at 14k and finished 8th. And I was just so sad for the whole year afterwards. It brought on massive anxiety, stress, the missed opportunity, going to end up working in a building site. Now I have no money, going to die not being important.
Did you go to that point? Did you think you were going to die not being important? I mean, how sad did you get?
I want the statue.
I didn't actually...
I want to know her level of sadness.
My sadness, it actually went away. Like, I don't know if I'm like, my brain works quite simply, but my sadness did go away quite quickly. I still have nightmares about it. No, I still remember it all. Like, I have a very good memory for like the races I did, like vivid memories for them. Okay. So I still remember it, but I got over the sadness quite quickly because then I was just like, I'm going to be the best in the world. And I just like threw myself into training straight. Like I was back training about like 3 weeks after the Olympics. Just was like...
For what though? What were you training for?
Rio. You know, that was what I thought, but but it was like looking back on it now in hindsight, it was stupid because I completely burnt myself out then. I did. I had a fantastic 2013, and then I was suddenly like, oh my god, there's still 3 more years. There's 3 more years to go.
Yeah,
which is a long time. Like you actually can't
sustain that.
No,
you can't sustain that level of intensity, particularly when I'm not an intense person. People always say I have a laissez-faire style attitude to life. So it was I had like really good results in 2013. Like it was.
I feel sad for you.
European champ then in 2013.
I was like, I wasn't just European champ. Like
in when 2013.
2013. I won nearly every single race at the championships. I remember just thinking, how are my competitors so much worse than me? I then went to the World Championships a couple of weeks later and like completely bombed and came 20th. And I was like, oh.
That sport always quickly.
You're like, I understand now that I'm way worse than them.
Yeah. So what happened? Like obviously.
So then Rio.
Yeah, that kind of cycle then. Like similar kind of pattern into Rio qualification.
So I qualified, and it was actually an earlier qualification. I qualified in 2014. So, and I remember, like, I wasn't nervous at all about qualifying for London. I was just ticking a box. So like, it didn't even occur to me I wasn't going to qualify.
Yeah.
But I was actually really nervous to qualify for Rio because I was like, this is so important. I need to qualify for Rio because I have to go there to try and win an Olympic medal. So I was really nervous at it, and I didn't perform that well at the start of the World Championships. I ended up performing well at the end, and I got the nation qualified. But it was like a weird perspective because suddenly it was like I was sort of fighting because I thought it was maybe could lose something, or I don't know. And then we started doing lots of training in Rio, and there was no wind. The water was really dirty. And there was no wind. It was which is my worst nightmare. Bobbing around, just
12 hour days.
Bobbing around, or like
what are your thoughts and emotions?
Derval sailing protein balls.
It was, I'm not good in light winds, and like the more you start telling yourself that, the worse you when you say I'm bad at something, you become bad at it. And I wasn't bad in light winds. I was good in light winds. I wasn't probably the best in the world, but I was okay in it. And then it became this thing, okay, you need to lose weight for Rio. You need to, and then this became this huge battle. Like,
but were you correct? Did you need to lose weight?
I 100% needed to lose weight, but it became the only thing in my life that mattered, trying to lose weight. And I became so obsessed with it, I actually didn't lose any weight at all. Or I would lose weight, and then I just gained the weight back on again. Because I think when you're like trying to go on like a mad diet, doesn't actually work.
So it wasn't kind of weight coming down from performance-related training, it was down to food and
it was
deprivation food.
Like I'd basically, I'd in my mind I'd be like, my diet's going really well, but that's because I wouldn't be eating very much food, and I'd lose loads of weight. And then suddenly I'd have like a bad week in training, and I'd get emotional about it all, and then I'd eat to make myself feel better. And anyway, like the struggle to lose, like let's say 4 kilos, like the discipline and struggle to do it over like 3 months. And in 1 week, I'd have gained that 4 kilos.
It's like life when you're retired, isn't it?
You're just like, it was just such a struggle. And I worked with loads of different dietitians, and like I 100% had like unhealthy eating habits, disordered eating, like just the way I'd be, very restrictive, and then like be like binge eating in secret when I'd be having a bad day, and then you'd hate yourself for it because you were like, I'd be like, I don't have an eating problem. This is just the situation I'm in.
Yeah.
So that run into Rio, there was a lot more going on. Like, you went into London, it was all very young, everything was quite nice. Into Rio, there was a lot of layers of tough stuff going on. It was how was that coming into Rio? Like, it was, like, I was actually at one stage, I was like, I don't even know if I want to go to these Olympics.
I remember they're awful. And my dad had been offered a place as a race official in Rio, and he had to do all these conflict of interest forms because I was probably going to be going.
Don't bring any wind machine.
And then he was like, I don't want. He was like, I don't want. I don't want to go because I might. It could be a distraction for you or something like that. And I was like, at least one of us should have a good Olympic experience, and that should be you.
You're like, I don't want to go either.
Yeah, I was like, you should definitely go because like at least you're not going to be able to perform that badly. Like I was like, I'm going to be a national disgrace.
So that's how you were feeling coming into Rio?
Yeah, but about probably 6 months out from the Olympics, one of my best friends on the circuit, Sarah, she's a New Zealand sailor, And we were just talking, and I was just like, Sarah, like this weight loss thing, I'm just not doing it. And then she's like, here, like everyone was trying to lose weight for Rio, like all the sailors were on a diet. And she was like, the Kiwi sailors were working with this woman, Carolyn Zinn, and she's basically getting everyone to do high fat, low carb to lose weight for Rio. So anyway, I like looked her up and looked up everything, her kind of stuff online and stuff. And I was like, then talked to Ronan, my nutritionist. And I was like, Ronan, like I've tried everything else. We've tried everything over the last 2 years, and I'm exactly the same weight I was 2 years ago.
Because
your body just always wants to go back to its natural weight. You know, your body just always wants to go back to what it's comfortable at, kind of thing. So he was like, if you think that this might work. So I think it worked really well for me because it just was like a bit of an all or nothing. I was like, this is my last chance.
Tough.
And
is it tougher for, like, do you know when you look at like even kids now 20, 21 and they're naturally lean and the girls and that, your body's different at 26, isn't it? Like your body's still to put that pressure on yourself as well.
Yeah.
Probably more so, it's tougher as a woman.
But do you think from a psychology point of view that became something that you could control? Because the sailing, you couldn't control the wind, you couldn't control certain conditions. So sometimes mentally you go, okay, what can I control? And that became the focus.
It became the focus, but then it actually worked really well for me. Now, I don't actually recommend it at all to anyone now because I'm like the carb machine these days. But for that 6-month period of my life, it meant I had structure, and it meant that like when I was having, like, I think before when I was getting stressed about something, the way to make myself feel better would be to eat. Yeah. Well, actually, like when all you've got to eat is like avocado or lettuce or eggs or nuts, you're not like, oh, I know, I'm just going to go and eat 7 avocados to make myself feel better. Like, you're not going to do that.
There was rules around it.
There was lots of rules around it, which it's like, it's not good for real life, but for that particular period.
But again, like, just to kind of clear, this is pure for sports performance.
Pure for sport,
you know, as opposed for vanity.
The food element and the emphasis you put on food. Have you ever spoken about this openly before? Because it's there's a lot of sports people go through that. A lot of people go through it. I know, in particular, me, like post injury, when I went down to Australia, I got obsessed with food, obsessed with it, and like I was so lean, I was ripped, you know, and I thought that's what I needed to be. Like I had abs, I looked like I looked like a specimen, but then it wasn't conducive to what I was doing. But yet in my head, it was like body dysmorphia. It was like I thought I was fat.
I've had it after my career. Like I was saying, like I'm 69 kgs now, and I raced at 57. But I was so strong, and it's so hard mentally coming out the other side. Like that weight thing and food and how you look at yourself and your value, and when all your values attached to when you were your best as an athlete. It's hard for athletes coming out of that and getting older. So the weight thing is, it's not just for normal people who struggle with it.
Something I think I struggled with was as well, I'd try and talk to other athletes about, I guess, my struggles with trying to like get down to a certain race weight and things like that. And most athletes would just like brush it off. And they're like, no, I don't really have any problem with that. And then it turns out like later on when you've been talking to them, like very few athletes don't struggle with like something their body composition in some way, because it's really important. It's a performance thing as well, which is something, you know, it is really important to be lean for performance. But then also
when I was older, especially and say when I was 30, and I could look at my body and I could see that extra kg on me, and it would go into my head, go, no, your body's done now. Your testosterone is not as high.
Like that as
You're
well.
weaker. You don't have as much power. You can see a little bit. And now when I look back in them pictures now, you're going, oh my God, you look so good. And at the time, I felt so bad.
So different.
And every year I go through that, like, it's like going, no, it's hard.
Well, I got my body weight down to like, I was under 5%. Like
body fat.
I was so lean. I was ripped. But
I had a record on the Dexter machine in Limerick.
Go on.
It was Paul Hessian had it before me, and it was a massive thing. But on the Dexter.
But that's not necessarily good either.
No, but I never looked for weight kind of stuff. But as I got older, like when I go back to like, say, women as they hit 25, 26, even in normal life, if you compare yourself to the 18-year-old, it's so hard.
Yeah.
But for me, it was definitely a control thing. Like I was Googling the calories of an apple. I got fixated on.
Really?
Like it had gone. But I was injured at the time, so I couldn't control my run. I couldn't train. So you start kind of looking at what can I control, and food became that. And even then, when I retired, I kind of went the opposite way, where the comfort eating. So anytime I felt down or depressed in terms of my career ending, I would eat.
Yeah, to make
I'm talking like ringing up a pizza company getting 2 large pizzas for the price of one and just doing it by myself, you know, 'cause
Yeah.
that's the way I felt, you know. So anyway,
It's-
back into the boat here.
I think it's that
Rio.
was, but like it was. I knew I had to be as light as I possibly could be to have a chance of performing well. But it was like that one thing that I couldn't crack. I probably didn't have the control to be able to do it. But as like I'm kind of going towards Rio, I'm actually finally like, oh, I'm kind of cracking this. Like I was just like steadily like, you know, I would weigh myself and like every day I'd be down, you know, 0.1 or 0.2 of a kilo. And like, it was just continuing like this the whole way up to Rio. And I'm like I'm like, it actually, that was what I was missing in my confidence, was like that one thing of like trying not to be the right weight. And then the really big thing was actually Sarah, the girl who'd suggested the like high fat, low carb diet. She'd qualified for the Olympics in New Zealand. And they said to her, you have to come top 10 at World Championships to be sent. And she came 11th at the World Championships in 2015. And then she came 11th again at the World Championships in 2016. And they were like, yeah, no, we're not sending you. You're not a medal hope. We're not sending you.
So harsh.
And so I wrote an email to like Yachting New Zealand saying, I think you should send her. She's super talented and she's like one of the best sailors in the world. You know, they were like, no, she's not going to win a medal. And so I was like chatting to her and I just kind of started to realise like how lucky I was. I'd finished 44th at those World Championships. She'd finished 11th in, and I was going to the Olympics.
Yeah.
You know, and
Perspective, isn't it?
and then Sarah, she called me up before Rio and she was like, do you want me to come out and be your training partner for your last camp in Rio? I was like, yeah, that'd be class. So she flew from
So you've got an
New
upgrade now
Zealand.
on the sister.
Yeah, she flew from New Zealand to Rio, and Rory and myself flew out to Rio, and the three of us just started training together. And it was like, I'm so lucky that I look back on it now, because I suddenly had this world-class training partner that I knew was really good, but was no threat to me at all.
Yeah.
So
It's the
she
threat
was,
piece, isn't
she
it?
was
As athletes.
She was only there to help me.
Yeah.
She was
And
only there as
trust.
To help you.
Yeah, to
And-
support you. It's amazing.
And actually, she
There's
really,
something very honourable about that as well, isn't
Yeah,
it? That she got
it's
so much
incredible.
joy in your potential success.
but like we came in from the water one day, and I was like, I'm very good at making race plans, but then if something goes wrong, I'd panic. And instead of doing my race plan, I do the complete opposite. Like I'd just be like, oh God, this hasn't worked. Okay, I'm going to do the complete opposite. And then I'd do really badly in the race. So we came in from a day's training and I was kind of like stressed out about my like sort of tactical deviance, as Rory called it. And Sarah and Rory, they sat me down. They're like, Murph, at the moment, you're an egg, but you're a raw egg. And we need to turn you into a hard-boiled egg over the next 3 weeks. I was just like, all right, like you guys are completely lunatics, basically. But that was like this little like sort of analogy that we had. Like it was the egg, and it was like, how do we protect the egg? How do I stay hard-boiled? Turn everyone else into omelettes and scrambled eggs. And it was, and then also, I think Rory and myself, we'd been working together for so long, like what, 11, 12 years. And we were just bickering about stupid things. And I'd be
Too
like, no,
comfortable
you're
with each
wrong.
other.
And he'd be like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Well, suddenly there was this third person.
Like me and Derval off camera.
And Rory would say, he'd be like, you know, this, like, you shouldn't do this. And then Sarah would go, no, actually, I think that's actually all right. Or I'd be like, oh, I think this is a good idea. And both would be like, no, you're stupid. Don't do that. Okay. So it was actually really good. It was like, just added really a bit of perspective.
But you get too comfortable with people as well, and you don't see the value that they actually bring.
Yeah.
And it's...
But,
and it's easier to lash out into people closer to you.
Sarah ended up then, she was meant to go home to New Zealand, but then I was like, will you actually come back and do 2 more weeks of training with me in Ireland and then come back and stay with me during the Olympics? And we're both really into coffee as well. So she was like, yeah, grand. So came back to Dublin. At that stage, we weren't trying to get any better at sailing. It's just like ticking over, making sure everything goes okay.
Really mentally ready.
And at this stage, I was like at a weight where I was like, I'm competitive across all wind conditions. Sarah had also kind of said something to me. We'd been out on one of the race courses in Rio, and I was like, oh, do you remember in 2014, you know, when the wind is coming around the island from the right-hand side, there's that bend, but then sometimes they'll come around from the left-hand side. And like Rory and Sarah were looking at me, they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you know that island there? And they're like, how do you remember this stuff? And I was like, oh, like I remember everything when I go out in the water. I was like, can't remember what I ate for breakfast, but like I remember like vividly
What's
everything.
important to you. Yeah.
And then Sarah goes, Annalise, like, she's like, I guarantee you, I don't think any of your competitors have a memory like this.
Yeah.
And I started to realise, like, I understood the race courses so well in Rio, and that was where I realised that was how I was going to have a sort of competitive advantage over everyone else was the knowledge I'd built up from all of my training camps out there in the previous 2 years. So, but it was Sarah saying, I thought everyone else thought like that. She was like, no one else is thinking like that. And, you know,
that's the power of having someone that sees something that you don't see.
She just reinforced your strength.
So Rio then, like, straight into it.
Yeah.
Went well from the get-go, or what?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, went to the opening ceremony. There was actually a lot of walking. I remember thinking, I'm probably tiring myself out here a bit. And I was at that stage where I was very lightweight and most things were hard to do. Like, I only just had enough energy to go and do my 2 races a day. And it was even questionable if I had enough energy to do 2 races. But I went out on the first day and had like an okay start. It was like maybe 8th at the first mark, had a good first downwind, was 3rd or 4th at the bottom mark. And then I just got ahead, got up into first and then just extended and I won the first race. And I remember the relief, being like, I don't think I could come last overall after I've won one race.
Mad, isn't it?
Because that was my biggest fear. I was going to go and come last.
Yeah.
Because I actually had come last at the pre-Olympics the year before. So there was a real possibility of me coming last at the Olympics.
Was there massive pressure in Rio as well? You were expected...
The public, you see, I don't think people had realised how badly I'd been going for the previous year.
No, but they would have looked at the previous Olympics and said, Ford, well, progression.
She's 4 years older.
No, in reality, I was just hoping I wouldn't come last. So anyway, won the first race. And I was like, I just got that, like, I was like, I was just relieved that I was like, I'm actually going really well. And then went out in the second race. I had a 13th, which again was quite good. Rio was very different to Weymouth. Like, there's so much going on there. There's mad mountains everywhere. There's tide. There's all sorts of stuff, like loads of different race courses. And went out on the second day. Had another really good day. It was actually a race course down near the big bridge in Rio. And any training camps we'd done, it always paid to go to the right-hand side of the race course. There was an airport there and there was just more wind coming down that side. But I was just like, I'd been talking to Rory that morning. I was like, Rory, I think I'm going to start on port, which is where you start, like, so you've got right of way on starboard and you don't on port. Everyone starts on starboard. I was like, I think I'm going to start on port like the 49ers do. I think it'll look kind of cool. Rory's like, where did you get this idea? I was like, I've been thinking about it for a while. And he's like, this is not a time to like practice experimental experimental starting strategies. I'm like, yeah, okay. Anyway, so the first race, actually, I should have been winning it, but I go to Rory. I'm like, here, those blue marks up there, they're the windward mark, aren't they? And he's like, yeah. Rory's completely colorblind, so it wasn't. It was the green marks, and so he's like, yeah, they're good, because he was just seeing all of them as the same color. So I actually went to the wrong mark, so people didn't realize how good the right hand side was because I sailed so much more distance. But I think I was still like 2nd or 3rd into the top mark, and I was maybe 7th in that race, and then. Like, again, these are it's all like counters. And then the next race, it's a total mess on the start. I was just like, this is my chance to do my port start. And I just like tacked onto port and I just like had the most unbelievable start.
No way.
And Rory said he was like in the rib watching and he was like, no, she's doing it. Oh no. And anyway, I like nailed it though. And just got like an ultimate like class start, had a really good race. One of the Australian coaches went up and he was like, that was impressive. Rory's like, she wasn't meant to do that. So, I had a really good second day. I was coming, I think, 2nd overall then going into the third day. Third day was actually windy and wavy, which we weren't expecting at all in Rio. And so I was absolutely delighted. I was like, this is the day I'm going to crush everyone.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went out. I went off the start line. I was like, why am I going faster than everyone else? I'd kind of forgotten about all the weight I'd lost.
Oh, yes.
And my way less energy that I had. And I was just going along and I was like, I was so confused because it was such a shock for me. I just presumed I'd be just smoking everyone and I wasn't. But I still had a good day. I had a 5th and a 2nd that day. And then that put me into 1st overall.
So you're first going into day 4?
First going into day 4. And then day 4 was... really difficult day, like my least favourite kind of conditions. And I had like a badish first race. I was 18th in the first race. I remember in the second race, I was starting to panic because I wasn't having a great second race. And my American friend Paige was behind me and she was freaking out. I remember just looking back and being like, Annalise, you can't be freaking out like her. Like she's throwing away her Olympics here. And it was actually that, like, seeing someone else freak out, it kind of just like brought me back to reality a bit.
Further into the competition, was it bringing you back to the stress of London and the possibility of
it was just
missing out again? And
I think I was still at the stage where I was like, I knew that, like, all I needed was like one really bad race and it was all done. So I was just very like taking it one race at a time. But I kind of managed to keep it back together, and ended up having an okay second race. And then last day of racing, I had a pretty good first race, and then our second race was inside, actually, on the medal race course, and I was winning that race, and I was like, if I win this race, I'm guaranteed an Olympic medal going into the medal race.
So what position were you going into the last day?
This was, at this stage, it was the last race before the last day, and I was probably going to go in first or second into the last day, but guaranteed a medal.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm first in the race, and I'm just like, and then I'm just like beside the finish girl, and we're both kind of going slow, and everyone's catching up with us, and I'm like, we just must be in like a hole of no wind here, because we're both just going slow together. And it turns out we just like sailed through loads of rubbish and was all on our like foils of our boats. But because both of us had done it, we'd slowed down together, so we kind of didn't really realise.
Right.
Because
so
we were both
underneath your boat, there was actual rubbish,
there was loads
litter
of rubbish
in the ocean.
Anyway, by the time we copped on, we were about 10th then. And so I ended up finishing 9th in that race. I came in and I was just so angry, because I was like, a plastic bag is going to cost me an Olympic medal.
That's mad.
I was like, oh my God, all I could think was, I was like, this is it, I'm going to come fourth again because of rubbish in the water. And like, the thing is, there was loads of rubbish in the water, but I'm sure all my competitors also had at some point of another race something. You kind of, it was nearly something you took where like you could be lucky and not catch any rubbish, but you were probably at some point going to catch some rubbish on your foils. But so I was going into the medal race actually in third, so same position as I was in London.
So you were guaranteed a medal?
I wasn't guaranteed a medal, no. So I could have finished fourth or fifth.
Oh,
so
my God.
How were you dealing then with the media then? With the media, like, compared to London when you came off the water and the questions? How?
I was just kind of, I was sort of very like relaxed about it. I was trying not to big myself up. And I was just like, I'm just trying to...
Did the experience in London obviously help?
It did.
Yeah,
I was like, look, I've been in this position before, and I know,
and you know the worst case scenario.
I know it can go very wrong. So I'm just going to go and try and race my best and not be afraid of what's going to happen. There was then a rest day between that day and our medal race.
A lot of time.
And I remember the rest day, my brother and sister brought me to the cinema, and we went to see Get Hard. It's a movie with, I think, The Rock is in it, maybe, and Kevin Hart.
This egg thing is really good. You want hard-boiled eggs.
And
We need to boil her.
I don't remember anything about the movie except that, like, I felt like I was getting cramping in my calves because I was obviously so tense in the cinema.
Oh my God.
And then I went back, I'd rented an Airbnb for the Olympics, so I went back to the Airbnb and I texted Rory being like, where are you? And he's like, we're just across the road having dinner with Sarah and Matt, who's one of our 49er sailors. He was like, come on in. So I went in and I sat down with them and I was like, lads, I'm absolutely shitting myself. Like, I feel like, I don't know if I'm just going to like projectile vomit everywhere or what's going to happen.
But you were able to talk about it, whereas in London...
Like, well, in London I was just so afraid to talk. And anyway, Rory looks at me and he's like, Murph, he's like, I think you need a beer. And I was like,
really?
I was like, I don't need a beer. I was like, Rory, I haven't drank anything in about a year. And he was like, and Matt goes, she definitely needs a beer. So anyway, they got me a bottle of beer. And like Rory said, he could like see me getting drunk with each sip I was taking of it. But I only had about half the bottle. But then I just went back to the apartment and I had the best night's sleep in the world. Okay. Like, I think it just was like...
It was a mental trigger to relax.
Yeah, just a trigger, yeah.
And I woke up the next day and went down to go and do the medal race, and I knew, like, I was still scared, but I wasn't like terrified of finishing fourth. And then, of course, being sailing, there was no wind all day, so we were waiting around for about 6 hours for wind. And then a storm came through and there was too much wind. So the racing got cancelled for that day. So we had to come down another day. And at this stage, I'm like, I actually just want it to be over.
Back the next day.
So I went out into the race and I was just like, I'm just not going to be afraid. Like, if I got beaten and they're better than me, that's just the way it is. But I was like, I'm not going to be afraid of what can happen if I lose. Sailed a good race. I was actually in gold medal position going around the last windward mark, and I knew I was guaranteed. Marit and Anne-Marie, the Danish and Dutch girls, they'd had a bad second upwind, so I knew I was guaranteed a silver medal at that stage. I was like, I'm getting at least a silver, but I'm in gold medal position. And then I just like had this moment, like I completely forgot I was racing. I was like, if I win a gold medal, is it going to ruin my life?
Did you?
Yeah.
Stop it.
Why?
It was just, I just suddenly thought, I was like, Ireland's such a small country. I was like, I'm like very much just like cruising around in my own little world. And, I'm not really like into the life. And I was just suddenly like, is this going to ruin my life?
Do you feel though, letting your head drift off there, that it did cost you a gold medal?
Oh, it 100% did, yeah. Because
Really?
2 boats got inside me, and that was the difference between...
I've had the opposite thoughts, like, when I was like, if I win the Olympic gold medal here, I'm going to come home and the streets are going to be full. Loving it. And I drifted off back.
Yeah.
It definitely cost a massive performance. It's the head again, isn't it?
It's the head and I always go back to like the stories you tell yourself. Mm-hmm. And that might not even, like that story you're telling yourself, it might not even be that you were afraid of what gold, it might actually be that you needed to take the pressure off, and that's the story your brain tells you.
Still a distraction though, and staying present.
Your brain is trying to cope with the pressure, so it's like, I'm going to tell you this story, it's mad.
And you're just like in your own little world
in
for
your
a few
own
seconds.
head.
But
it's the unknown.
Yeah.
It's like what will happen or what could happen if I cross this line and I win.
But were you buzzing? You won the medal.
I was
How did you feel?
What was the feeling? Yeah.
Relief.
Yeah.
I was so relieved.
Yeah.
Like that was all. I was just like, I was so relieved that I'd actually done it, because you don't know, like...
No, looking back, how do you feel about being an Olympic medalist?
I think now, like, I'm like very proud of it, because I realise how hard it is. Like, it's probably taken me a long time to be like, I was nearly embarrassed about it. I was like, oh yeah, my Olympic medal, like you're kind of, you're not, I don't know, it was just...
But it's a lot to take on, I'd imagine. Like, I don't have an Olympic medal, but I'd imagine straight off the water, you're thrown into... Suddenly you're out there by yourself, to next minute everyone wants a piece of you and wants your reaction.
I had the best time ever in Rio, because my whole family were out there.
Yeah.
Like, it was great crack. We went to Lapa, which is the samba dancing district of Rio, and my mum was on the bar with Gary O'Donovan spraying people with bottles of champagne, and it was just totally wild. I remember thinking at one stage, I was like, my family might get arrested here, and we might never might never get out of Brazil. But, I know.
They would have had friends in the jail. They would have been fine.
But it was great crack. That and then the only thing was, I think then, because everything was kind of going down in the Olympic Village. Actually, when I went to the Olympic Village, I thought everyone was going to be like really excited to see me. But like everyone was so shook by everything that was going on with the OCI and stuff like that, that it was nearly like people were like everyone was trying to avoid everyone, and
people were shocked. I thought people thought it was hilarious.
Oh really? I didn't see. I just kind of arrived in.
It's great crack.
I was a bit like
picture Paddock in his nightgown.
But everyone like
it's so iconic.
Everyone left though. Do you remember like all of the all of the management all just like got flights out of Brazil. Like it was mad.
But the people who were in their own space and were it was unnerving, but there was carnage going on. All right, like. But
it was Brazil. Like it's a good place to have a party after an Olympic medal.
It's pretty solid. So now. You're officially retired now, retired from sailing. You went on, you did Tokyo. Result there probably wasn't what you wanted, but you have your Olympic medal. So you've 3 Olympics, 1 Olympic medal, 1 fourth. How do you look back on it all? Like, what's your thoughts now?
That I'm so lucky that I got to do it.
Okay.
Like, you kind of, I think when you're doing it, you don't really realise it, but afterwards, you're like, oh, it's such hard work, and I'm away and I'm missing all this stuff. But the only reason any of us got to do this was because we were talented enough to actually have a chance to do it. Like most people just don't even get the opportunity to try.
True, yeah.
And that's, I think, something that I kind of took from it was that, it was such a, like what a laugh that we got to do, travel around the world, competing, doing this like mad circus when we were like young and fit and healthy. Like you're never going to look back on it when you're older and be like, God, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I'd gone into the corporate world. Yeah, I wish I'd gone to KPMG and become an accountant. Like, you're never going to
show better presentation skills. Yeah.
You still can do that if you want. Like, there's time for that if you want. Like, you're never going to be able to in your 40s go, something. I think I'm going to give the Olympics a crack.
That's such a brilliant point, though, isn't it? When you see the kids coming out of college now. And they get a degree, and say if you're an engineer and you move into work, and say you're getting a grant to 12 or 20 grand, and then you're on 40 grand a year, it seems like so much money, but there's no substitute for that life And I know we've a lot of miserable stories, but you wouldn't change it for the
Chase
world.
the dream.
No,
Just
yeah,
chase
it's a dream.
the
Because
dream.
the work is always there, isn't it?
And it's having to go. When you look back, is there any, is Rio the pinnacle, or, you know, is there any other moments that really stand out?
Yeah, like Rio, like it was probably like the happiest moment in my life. I joke that my wedding day isn't going to be actually that important. That my most important day of my life already happened.
And you are getting married at the end of August, I would just like to point out.
I am getting married at the end of August. So.
But once he knows that, it's fine.
Yeah, but you'll
It'll
have
be
to
the
come
second
on
best day.
and let us know, is the wedding better or is the Rio medal better after it's all said and done?
It's which
Brilliant,
was
Annalise.
actually better. Yeah.
At least insightful, and some great stories in there. Fair play to you. It's brilliant.
No, well,
And
thank
best
you
of luck
very
on the
much.
bike.
Oh, thank you very
The
much.
cycling's taking over your life now.
I know.
I should be having a baby next year now, man. It'll be completely different.
They'll ruin it for me.
It'll ruin it.
but
Yeah, you'll have a fear going out the road.
I'm kind of half hoping, that could be one of those women that like they have a baby and then they're 10 times better. I feel like I'll be the opposite.
Come back
though.
for LA
Yeah.
2028.
Yeah, I feel like I'll be the opposite. I'll be the person. I'll be like, this baby has absolutely destroyed me. I am not able to do anything anymore. But it's
And about babies, lads, I need to go and collect mine from school.
Okay, well, listen, lads,
Thanks, Annalise.
that was brilliant. Thanks for coming in.
no, thank you very much. Thank you for having me and for feeding me last night.
No problem. Yeah, we were drinking wine and eating last night. What are you excited for Paris? And then we'll let you go.
I'm really excited for, I guess, the athletics because I feel like we have an amazing athletics team going. Also for the swimming.
Oh, yeah.
Daniel Whiffen,
Yeah.
Mona McSherry, Daniela Hill. Like, there's loads of like really good swimmers going in gymnastics. Reese, the rugby sevens. Like, we've got 3 teams: rugby sevens, men and women, and men's hockey. So straight away, that's like a bigger
There's so
amount
much
of
to be
people
excited about,
than
isn't there?
probably like our entire
Yeah,
Olympic
yeah.
squad in London. Like, it's I think it just like apparently all our equestrian teams are in really good shape. Like, it could be like Ireland's best ever Olympics. I'm very excited to like enjoy it from the other side. Like, the Olympics, when you're in it, it's very stressful, You don't really want to watch any Olympics because you're
Yeah,
at
you don't.
Olympics all day. Like, everything is Olympics. Your tracksuit, your food, everything, your bed, it's all Olympics. Well, like, now that I'll just be able to like sit on the couch and be like, oh, I wonder who I'm going to watch today. Like, it's
Pour a glass of wine and enjoy
it's really exciting, and I think we have like exceptional athletes, like which is
We're in a good place, I think. Yeah.
it's great to see, and it is so exciting when you suddenly just get really involved in a sport that you had no idea existed. You're like, God, I love this. So yeah, and hopefully that's the thing, that it'll inspire kids to want to do it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think the time zone and everything's going to make a big difference.
Yeah,
like,
Paris is gonna be
people will be
rocking.
watching it, and then kids will watch Paris and go, I want to be there in 4, 8, 12 years time. And that's and I'm just like, I'm always to kids, I'm like, just give it a go. Like, the worst that's going to happen is you're going to gain loads of life skills and have to go and get a real job. The best that's going to happen is you're going to get to go to an Olympics. So it's all worth it.
Happy
Brilliant.
days.
Good stuff.
Annalise,
Thanks,
thanks.
Annalise.
No worries. Thank you for having me.